This séance was recorded on the 1st of August, 1979, medium Leslie Flint. David Cattanach speaks to his mother and the group about his level of consciousness and what he finds, his work, and his aspirations.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Be nice to know what David and Bob do together.
Mm.
Rescue work.
Do you still do that?
Yes, I find that fascinating, helping people, you know. And whenever there's some disaster, or not necessarily just a disaster, but we go as a band, a whole crowd of us, to help people because they're so bewildered and so, you know, absolutely shaken the mere fact that they're dead. They don't even know they're dead in some cases. When a person dies under very tragic circumstances, I think there's a terrific shock. And in some cases, they're inclined to be earthbound. And we can help them to some extent. Of course, there are some it's very difficult to reach. But in the majority of cases, we're able to help considerably. And you'd be surprised how some people don't cling to the earth. They just think they're in a sort of dream and they're going to wake up. It's a sort of a nightmare in some cases for some people. They don't even know that they're dead. They just think it's some sort of strange dream and they're going to wake up. And they haunt, if that's the word, often their home and the people that they've known and try to attract attention in the initial stages of coming, and they get very upset and furious and sometimes very irritable, and sometimes they get, besides some of the poltergeist, whatever it is, phenomena you call it, is in some instances done by earthbound entities. They're not necessarily evil, of course, they're frustrated, you see.
Is Bob working with you?
Yes, well, we're very close, actually. We're good pals together.
Oh, that's lovely.
We do a great deal of work together, it's main thing.
And darling, is Tom with you still?
Yes, yes.
Good.
I say, can you hear me?
Yes, very well, dear.
You know, it's very stupid, actually, from your point of view, but one intends to say this, that, and the other. I make up my mind, and I've had people say to me, please give a message or something. It doesn't only apply to me, of course, it applies to other people. And when the moment comes, it's as if somehow your brain goes dead. That's if I've got a brain, I don't know. That's another funny thing. I'll do all out with appearances, I suppose. I look very much as you remember me. But I suppose my body is, in the sense of replica of the old one on Earth, and yet I don't even know if I've got a heart or if I've got a brain. I don't think I have, in a sense, isn't that stupid? I mean, I don't suppose, I don't know, it's very weird. But you know that one is conscious, one is able to think much more clearly. One is able, under one's own circumstances and conditions, that is, to be able to explain and express things much better than perhaps you would have done on Earth. And one's whole life is so much more exciting and interesting and full of opportunity in so many different ways. And yet, I say to myself, sometimes it all comes to me in a split second of time, I suppose. For the heavens, this is a beautiful thing. And have you got a brain? Have you got a heart? And all that with appearances, I know I look identical more or less, remarkably. And yet there must be, and there are, of course, differences. But it's a physical body as the old one, yes, the old one was, and yet I don't have to be subject to all the, well, the problems of a material body. I mean, I don't have the actual pains or anything like that, you know, and I'm not even conscious. It's training to think of all this. I mean, of course, when I cannot talk or try to talk better, perhaps that my thoughts feel this thing. I'm straining out video in a sense to get over the yes, but under my normal conditions of life here, everything seems to be so leisurely and so easy and so calm and so placid. I'm not conscious of having to sort of work hard or strain for anything. I mean, I'm learning all sorts of things, of course, in different ways, but I don't think it's also when we don't explain things in depth, isn't it? I mean, I feel a bit of an ass, quite frankly, at that, and I can't try and talk. I think to myself now, then I can get that over. And how can I explain something when there are no words that I can conjure up that would explain exactly what I want to convey? Because when I get away from the earth, away from the old thoughts and ideas and what have you, and get into my own environment, in some ways it's so dissimilar. There are so many different aspects to it which are so Absolutely. Well, in a contrast to my sort of material way of thinking and living, I'd love to be able to do naturally, be able to tell you things about aspects of my life which I would do if I could find a way of expressing it. I mean, I talk and we all talk when we can, we give me opportunity about all sorts of aspects of our life. We talk about different spheres, different conditions of life. We talk about music, for instance, or where somebody has a great interest in doing something in a different field of activity, or studying, or wanting to become an artist or creative person in some shape or form. And this is the joy and the beauty of it in a way. I mean, there are thousands of people, no doubt, who never had an opportunity in the world to express themselves in any way in particular. They probably never had the opportunity because of lack of background and education or finance or what have you. But over here, everyone has an opportunity if they so wish to enter into a field of activity. It may be in one field or it may be in another. I mean, I have a tremendous interest in music, and I think that in that direction I may be able to achieve something which not only enjoy it and pleasure to me, but to others. I mean, for instance, I attend, and well, many of us, of course, do, go to what you would call, I suppose, festivals. I don't know if that's the right word, but there are all sorts of activities I have. But we're great teachers and great musicians also who've composed, great composers who've composed new works and are played in vast auditoriums. We don't always show what's in buildings either. We have what I suppose you'd call, I don't know if that's the best way of putting it, vast amphitheaters which are in a natural surrounding. And if you could see this world, it's only I don't even begin to describe it. I mean, it's not just in some respects similar to your world from the point of view of natural surroundings and nature, all of that, but much more besides. I mean, for instance, the colours. We have colours which I don't even know how to begin to depict and describe. I don't even tally with anything that I can remember on earth. But this is what it's all about. I mean, there are so many different layers of consciousness. This is another exciting thing which I don't even know how to begin to talk about and explain. We can be on several different levels. We can aspire, yes, of course, and we do, and we get different awareness, if you like, of certain aspects of life which are not exactly ours as yet, but which we've only been through enter. There are no demarcation lines. There are no barriers between one field of activity or one state of being and another. There is a sense that it's within oneself. Oneself makes, as it were, the barrier. But once you release yourself and aspire, once you open up your consciousness, so you become conscious and aware of other spheres of activity, and indeed of other people who are much more highly involved. We receive instructions and guidance from selves in very high spheres who come down of their own accord onto other levels, who come to help and to give us ideas and to give us instruction and upliftment and guidance. It's not necessarily what you would call, I suppose, religious, and yet I suppose in a way one might call it that in some respects. It's the most extraordinary thing. I don't even know how to begin to depict or describe some things, but we're aware. I suppose that's the only word I could ever find to use, aware of the opportunities that are all around and about us. We may not be on the level of consciousness that we have to inherit or to take on to ourselves until realization of certain things, but it's there. It's as if somehow, in our opening up of our consciousness, we become suddenly aware of other people, other presences, other spheres, or other places of activity, and we take on temporarily perhaps something of themselves that they give to us or impart to us. It's the most extraordinary thing out of unexplained or one really feels I am me, but at the same time there are moments when I'm more than me, I'm several other people. It's because temporarily at least I've taken something from some other soul who's imparted some aspect of themselves to me, and it's enabled me to expand my vision and my experience, and I have adjusted myself accordingly with the new experience, and if I may say wisdom, of course I demonstrate quite clearly. Anyone on this side will ever be able to tell you in words so many things ever came into our thoughts and ideas and our way of life and our experience, because this is whatever we want to connect to you. We have to some extent to put down to a material level for you to be able to grasp it, and we have to sort of try as best we can to put into words, into your awareness of things, aspects of thought which are in some ways very far removed from the material ideal conception of things as you learned in your work. And of course we have the duty of trying to putting it into a language, but all these things somehow is although they're difficult to overcome, being difficult to our best, but what I want more than anything and what all of us want, I know, is for you to be conscious and aware not only of us as you remember us. That's vitally important, and that I suppose in a way is understandable, and in a sense that's the only way you can hope to recapture us or me or whoever you know. But there's so much more to it now with me and with all of us. There's so many aspects of our nature, so many aspects of our experience, so many aspects of our achievement as an individual, as the body, or the person, or as the one that you learn about. But you see, I think the whole secret of it is that although we are individuals, we are in a sense a vessel which takes unto itself all sorts of impressions and ideas, all sorts of exciting happenings, you might say, through experience and contact with others. I'm much more an expanded human being, much more much more developed soul, if I can put it like that without sounding bombastic. But believe me, I know from your point of view, and the point of view of anyone, no doubt, who loses, as one puts it, in the material sense, someone they know and loved, especially someone who was young. It is a terrible blow and a shock and a disappointment and heartbreaking disillusionment. I know all that from your angle, but if only they could see from our point of view after the initial shock of leaving the earth and beginning to open up one's consciousness to the wider vision of things here is something to rejoice about. I know it's hard, very hard for you and for others like you, but you shouldn't, in a sense, in a way, be unhappy on our account. Of course, naturally, you're unhappy on your own account because you miss the physical presence and all the things that means. But believe me, if you could see as I see and know as I know what life is all about here, and the reality of it, and the beauty of it, and the excitement of it, and the adventure is a tremendous adventure. It's the most exciting thing that could ever happen to anyone, is to die. To die is not to lose the realization of things and of life, is to gain a better vision and a better understanding with a wider opportunity and with all sorts of exciting things which lie in front of one. I know it's not easy, but I don't look back. In a sense, I look back only from your point of view and Dad's point of view. You know I love you, and I come to you, and I watch over you, and I help you as best I can. But believe me, if you could see as I see and know as I know, you would realize what a tremendous great adventure. There's no greater adventure that anyone could ever hope for than is to die. To die is to live. To die is to open up one's consciousness to such beauty that words fail one. You couldn't begin to describe it. The beauty of the world in which I inhabit, and I'm only on the fringe. That's what makes it so exciting. It's whatever it is that's happening, and so much is happening with me and others like me, but we're only touching the fringe of eternity. I mean, that in itself sounds perhaps a strange thing to say, and no one can analyze, or no one, I suppose, can really say to oneself about eternity with any conviction. In fact, the whole idea, I suppose, of eternity frightens one. In fact, one can't even visualize what it all means to go on and on, indefinitely. But what makes it a reality, what makes it such an extraordinary and exciting thing is that one never stops learning. There's always something else to experience. As soon as you've taken, as it were, from your own particular sphere of life or activity or condition in which you find yourself, as you assimilate everything that you can, so gradually you become aware of other vistas and other things lying further ahead. And it's a continual striving, continual, in a sense, climbing, if you like, from one condition to another. It's the most exciting and most wonderful thing. Of course, none of us really know what lies ahead to any great extent. That's another thing that makes it understandable, and I suppose to some people who don't yet understand would make it tolerable, is that round the corner there's still something new and fresh and exciting, some new adventure. No one need fear. Believe me, it's the most wonderful experience once you begin to think it out, once you begin to organize or reorganize your way of thought, and you assimilate the knowledge and experience that is there, waiting to be taken on. It's a challenge too, in a way. You know, honestly, I can assure you that no one need fear dying. It is something that one should look forward to. It's a great adventure. And no one need fear. Of course, I do know there are instances of people who behave very badly on earth, who perhaps done appalling things. And in a sense, of course, it's not so easy for them, because they have to start, and well, you might say, at the bottom. In fact, they have to go down before they can climb up. But the point is, no one is lost. There is always hope. Everyone, to some extent, can find his own salvation, but it must be done by one's own efforts. No one can do it for you. Nobody can save you. Various people can come and point the way. They can come and show you the path. They can help you to some extent to travel the path, but they can't actually walk it or do it for you. That's where all the great religions, to some extent, have a fundamental truth. The teachers, the great prophets, the people who came into the world like Jesus to show a path, to show a way, to set an example, but they couldn't do it for you. They could only point the path and the way and give you hope and give you faith and give you strength. If only people could see as we see, as I see, the reality and the beauty and the joy of all this. If only spiritualists, could preach the truth as we know it, not as sometimes they preach it. If they could make people see what is behind everything that we say and do. Even sometimes we say, and I know we do say, things which are very mundane, which are very ordinary, which are very sort of, well, material perhaps, but they are really, in a sense, only keys that unlock doors. If people wish to tread further inside, it's up to them. We can't force them. The whole point is, once we've proved as best we can the reality of what we say, in other words, if I give conviction to you, or some other son gives conviction to its mother, or whoever it may be, that brings comfort and joy and hope to someone in your world who's sad and lonely, then if only once they have become aware of the truth, they start to do something within themselves, and also to try as best they can to give us the opportunity to say often the things we most want to say, not always as we often have to in the beginning, which is necessary. The mundane give us the opportunity to say the things which can be not just for one or two people, but for everyone, a light in the darkness, because your world to us is very dark, and every time we come, if it were not for your love, it's like a little candle burning in the darkness of a room that gives us some illumination to reach you. But the world outside, the world itself, to us becomes increasingly more difficult to reach and to. It's like as if we're trying to pierce a fog, and this is a fog, as it were, of people's thoughts and their actions. All around your world there's so much building up, all due to mankind's attitudes, wrong thinking and actions, hatred and malice and intolerance of life in your world. There's no peace and no tranquility and no harmony and no love, or very little, among individuals, perhaps here and there, yes, and with the people we know and love. There is that love that they bear us and we bear them, which is like a light in the darkness, which can open up the way for untold millions, perhaps the whole wide world, if they properly understood what we're trying to do with you and through you. The whole world could find its salvation, but we know it's an almost impossible task. But we do know there is a possibility that eventually, well, maybe we hope anyway, that we shall infiltrate more and more of our love into your world and our knowledge, and that you will go out and do what you can as best you can. I know you do your little bit in your own way, and you do a good job. And I know others in this room also are doing similar work, and we are very grateful, of course. But we do know that even so much is lost, so much isn't given that we would like to see given to the people who really are in such desperate need. But it's not just only comforting those who mourn and healing the sick, whether they be of mind or of body. All these things are vital, important. We know that. But what we want above all else is for people in your world to realize the reality of the Spirit that we have, and that experience and the knowledge of that Spirit, which we can to some extent impart to you, that you can, by your thoughts and your actions, give to others, that they may see as we see, that we are all one. We are not separated, we're all one. One Spirit, we're individual spirits, yes, to a point, that's true, but we're all part of each other. And one should have no hatred, no malice, no intolerance, only love, only love.
Thank you very much, Thank you so much.
Margaret, do you remember making me say that he was going to use David some time ago? Do I remember that from the tape? You might have been when you asked for if we could hire people. Yes, I don't know necessarily about the hire people. Your son David will be doing something. Well, I'm glad we are. That's what we did. 10 years ago last week.
Quite right.
So David took over.
Mickey?
Mickey, thank you. Hold on. He's a very brilliant boy. And he's a sweetie. I like him.
Thank you, Mickey.
He really got onto a different level. This is what you people don't perhaps fully understand. It's human nature and natural that you look forward to communicating with your son or your husband or your wife, and you naturally assume that to some extent, and quite rightly, that they will be on that level that you remember them, and they stay to some extent temporarily on that level, partly for your benefit, not only to give you conviction, but also to make you feel good inside, you know, that they haven't changed all that much, and so on, and you'll recognise them, etc., which is all very true. But once they get involved on this side of life, and I think there's perhaps much more to be done in the beginning, because they assimilate more quickly and they're more prepared for change, and they're not so sort of steeped in their ways and their ideas, but you know what it's all about. There's so much that we could give you people on different levels of awareness and consciousness, you know. But of course, when you work with someone like old Flint, then the majority of people are more or less, I suppose. It wasn't quite right there, not condemning. They think, oh, well, if I can get a little message from my bread and my salad or my bird, you know. They have their problems and they want to know, perhaps ask someone as to whether they should do this or do that or shouldn't they do that. Well, on a level, you know.
Mickey, you've given us some beautiful time.
Oh, well, in this time, yeah. Well, sometimes I've done that because I felt the people for concern were interested. And I thought, well, you know, this is a nice group. And they've had evidence of different sorts once and more than once or twice probably. And I think, well, so what, you know.
He was a beautiful teacher.
Oh, yeah, well, he was awfully keyed up, you know. And he was getting a lot of help, too, you know. Well, of course, it gives me a great pleasure when I know that people come like you, who, although, of course, naturally, if you get a personal message, you're happy, and it's only human and right that you should. But, you know, we feel that there's so much we could do, and so much that would be of value to other people, not necessarily just the people who are present at the time, and they listen to the recordings, you know, and it could spread and it could help a lot of people, and it could bless them, you know.